The Passion of the Christ. These words carry weight. They speak of sacrifice, of love, of a moment in history that continues to shape billions of lives. It's a story that has been told and retold for centuries, passed down through generations like a sacred flame. From the ancient texts to modern-day pulpits, the story of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection holds a power that transcends time and culture. It's a story that challenges us. It compels us to confront the depths of human cruelty and the heights of divine love. It's a narrative woven into the very fabric of human history, a beacon of hope that has illuminated the darkest of times. But what is it about this story, this one man's journey, that continues to resonate so deeply within us? Why, after all these centuries, does the Passion of the Christ still hold such immense power? To understand the Passion, we must first understand the man at its center, Jesus of Nazareth. Born into a world of poverty and oppression, Jesus emerged as a beacon of hope, a teacher whose words carried an authority that defied his humble beginnings. He spoke of love, of forgiveness, of a kingdom that transcended the earthly realm. His message resonated with the downtrodden, the weary, the lost souls searching for meaning in a world often devoid of it. He healed the sick, comforted the grieving, and challenged the hypocrisy of the powerful. But Jesus' message of love and radical forgiveness was also deeply unsettling to those in power. It threatened the established order. It challenged the status quo. His growing popularity, coupled with his unwavering commitment to truth and justice, put him on a collision course with the ruling elite. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change the course of history, a confrontation that would culminate in a single earth-shattering event, the Passion of the Christ. To truly grasp the magnitude of Jesus' life and sacrifice, we must journey back to the time and place of his birth. Imagine, if you will, the ancient land of Judea, a land steeped in history, tradition, and religious fervor. The year is roughly 6 BC, and the Roman Empire, a vast and powerful force, holds dominion over Judea. The Jewish people, fiercely independent and deeply devoted to their faith, find themselves living under the yoke of Roman rule. Their lives are a tapestry woven with threads of hope and despair, anticipation and uncertainty. They yearn for a Messiah, a deliverer promised by the prophets of old, one who would liberate them from oppression and usher in a new era of peace and prosperity. Into this tumultuous world, a child is born in the humble town of Bethlehem. Jesus, a name that means Yahweh saves, enters a world hungry for salvation, unaware that he will become the embodiment of hope for countless souls across the ages. Life under Roman occupation was a double-edged sword for the Jewish people. On one hand, the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, brought a measure of stability and order to the region. Trade flourished and infrastructure improved under Roman administration. Yet this stability came at a price: the loss of autonomy and the constant presence of a foreign power that often displayed little regard for Jewish customs and beliefs. Religious life centered around the temple in Jerusalem, a magnificent structure that served as the physical and spiritual heart of Judaism. The temple was more than just a place of worship. It was a symbol of Jewish identity, a testament to their covenant with God. However, even the temple was not immune to Roman influence, as the high priests often found themselves caught between maintaining their religious authority and appeasing their Roman overlords. This delicate balance bred resentment and unrest among the Jewish populace. Religious groups, each with their own interpretation of the scriptures and visions of the future, emerged, adding to the growing tension. The Pharisees, known for their strict adherence to the law, and the Sadducees, the priestly aristocracy, vied for influence and power within this volatile landscape. It's against this backdrop of political and religious ferment that Jesus begins his public ministry. His message, one of love, forgiveness, and radical compassion, resonates deeply with the common people who are drawn to his teachings and his aura of authority. He speaks of a kingdom not of this world, a spiritual kingdom where the last shall be first and the meek shall inherit the earth. Jesus' teachings, however, are not merely spiritual platitudes. They carry a sharp edge that challenges the status quo. He condemns hypocrisy, especially among the religious elite, and calls for a return to genuine faith, one marked by love, mercy, and justice. His actions, such as overturning the tables of the money changers in the temple, further challenge the established order and mark him as a threat to those in power. As Jesus' popularity grows, so too does the suspicion and hostility of the ruling authorities. The Pharisees, in particular, view his teachings as blasphemous, a direct affront to their interpretation of the law. They fear his influence over the masses and the potential for unrest that his message carries. The stage is set for a confrontation, a clash between the old order and the radical message of love and forgiveness that Jesus embodies. The seeds of discord have been sown, and the events that unfold will forever alter the course of human history. As Jesus' ministry gained momentum, a palpable tension gripped Jerusalem. His words, like sparks in a parched forest, ignited both hope and fear. The common people, hungry for a sign, a glimmer of light in their often bleak existence, flocked to him. They saw in Jesus a leader unlike any other, one who spoke truth to power and offered solace to the suffering. Yet the ruling elite, threatened by Jesus' growing influence and his searing indictments of their hypocrisy, plotted against him. The Pharisees, the self-proclaimed guardians of religious purity, saw in Jesus' message a dangerous heresy, a threat to their carefully constructed system of control. They whispered in dark corners, their hearts hardening against the message of love and forgiveness that Jesus embodied. The air grew thick with suspicion and intrigue. Jesus, aware of the danger swirling around him, continued his ministry with unwavering resolve. He knew the path he trod led to a destination far beyond the confines of earthly power, a destination where love would ultimately triumph over hate, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. Soon as the Passover festival approached, casting a long shadow over Jerusalem, Jesus shared a final meal with his disciples. The Passover, a time of remembrance and liberation, commemorating the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, took on a profound new meaning in the upper room. For Jesus, this gathering would be no ordinary meal. It would be a farewell, a solemn covenant sealed in his own blood. With heavy hearts they gathered, the flickering candlelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. As they shared bread and wine, symbols of nourishment and lifeblood, Jesus spoke of his impending sacrifice, a sacrifice that would shatter the chains of sin and offer the gift of eternal life. He broke the bread, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you." He lifted the cup, proclaiming, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." In that moment, the weight of his words, the gravity of his sacrifice settled upon the disciples' hearts. They could scarcely comprehend the depth of his love, the immensity of his gift. Little did they know that this meal, this sacred communion, would become a cornerstone of faith for generations to come, a tangible reminder of Jesus' boundless love and the promise of redemption. Even as Jesus shared this final meal with his disciples, the spectre of betrayal loomed large. Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, his heart consumed by greed and doubt, had already struck a bargain with the chief priests. For 30 pieces of silver, the price of a slave, Judas agreed to betray his teacher, his friend, into the hands of those who sought to silence him forever. Under the cloak of darkness, Judas led a band of soldiers and temple guards to the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus had gone to pray. The darkness seemed to mirror the darkness that had crept into Judas's soul, a darkness that had blinded him to the light that shone so brightly in Jesus. With a kiss, the ultimate act of betrayal, Judas identified Jesus, handing him over to those who thirsted for his blood. The disciples, shocked and confused, drew their swords, ready to defend their master. But Jesus, knowing that his hour had come, calmly rebuked them, saying, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword." He surrendered willingly, knowing that his sacrifice, his act of ultimate love, would shatter the power of sin and death and offer the hope of redemption to all humanity. In the stillness of the Garden of Gethsemane, beneath the gnarled branches of ancient olive trees, Jesus faced his darkest hour. The weight of the world, the sins of humanity, pressed down on him with crushing force. He had come to this garden, a place of peace and solitude, to seek solace in prayer as he had done countless times before. As the disciples slept nearby, oblivious to the spiritual battle raging within their master, Jesus poured out his heart to his Father. "Abba, Father," he cried out, "all things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me. Yet not what I will, but what you will." His words, raw with emotion, echoed through the garden, a testament to the depth of his love and the agonizing choice he faced. The Gospel of Luke tells us that as Jesus prayed, his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. The physical and emotional torment he endured in that garden transcended human understanding. Yet even in his agony, even as he wrestled with the weight of his destiny, Jesus remained steadfast in his obedience to his Father's will, knowing that his sacrifice, as excruciating as it would be, held the key to humanity's salvation. The night crackled with tension. Jesus, betrayed by a kiss, found himself dragged before the Sanhedrin, the highest Jewish court. The air throbbed with accusations. False witnesses twisted his words. Their venomous pronouncements echoed in the stillness of the night. He, the Lamb of God, stood accused by those who claimed to speak for God. The irony stung like salt in a wound. He, the embodiment of love, was condemned for hate. He, the Prince of Peace, was labelled a threat to their order. He, the truth, was suffocated by their lies. Through it all, Jesus remained steadfast. His silence spoke volumes. It was a silence born not of fear, but of knowing. He knew his purpose. He knew his fate. He knew that even in this injustice, God's plan was unfolding. The Sanhedrin, blinded by their own righteousness, delivered their verdict, guilty of blasphemy, yet their authority extended only so far. For the death sentence, they needed Rome's seal of approval. Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, found himself caught in a web not of his making. He looked upon Jesus, this man condemned by his own people, and saw no fault in him. Yet political expediency whispered in his ear. The Jews, a volatile people under Roman rule, were on the verge of riot. Pilate, ever the pragmatist, chose the path of least resistance. He washed his hands, a gesture as empty as his heart, and handed Jesus over to be crucified. The weight of the cross, a brutal instrument of Roman execution, was thrust upon Jesus' already lacerated shoulders. The wood, rough and heavy, dug into his flesh, a physical manifestation of the spiritual burden he carried. He stumbled, his body racked with pain, yet he did not falter. Each step towards Golgotha, the place of the skull, was a testament to his unwavering love, his resolute obedience to a plan far grander than himself. Golgotha, a hill outside Jerusalem, stood stark against the sky, a place of death. It would soon witness the death of life itself. The Roman soldiers, hardened by years of brutality, mocked Jesus in a cruel parody of a king. They draped him in a purple robe, a symbol of royalty twisted into a mockery. They placed a crown of thorns upon his head, each sharp point drawing blood, a cruel caricature of a king's crown. "Hail, King of the Jews!" they sneered, their laughter echoing the emptiness of their souls. Through it all, Jesus' eyes held a depth of sorrow that transcended physical pain. It was the sorrow of a shepherd watching his sheep stray, a father grieving for his lost children. He saw not just the cruelty of the soldiers, but the cruelty of humanity, the darkness that had infected the hearts of those he came to save. Yet even in this moment of utter humiliation, love shone through. Love for the very ones who mocked him, love for a world lost in its own sin, a love so pure, so profound, it defied comprehension. With brutal efficiency, they nailed him to the cross. The sound of hammer against wood echoed the finality of their actions. As they hoisted him up, the cross became an altar, his outstretched arms, a testament to the immeasurable reach of his love. The sun, as if recoiling in horror, hid its face. Darkness descended upon the land, a tangible manifestation of the spiritual darkness that enveloped the world. For 3 agonizing hours, Jesus hung there, his body racked with pain, his spirit pierced by the sins of humanity. From his parched lips came words of forgiveness, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Even in his final moments, his heart overflowed with compassion, his love knowing no bounds. And then, with a cry that shook the very foundations of the earth, he breathed his last. "It is finished," he whispered, the weight of the world lifting from his shoulders, the veil of the temple, separating the Holy of Holies from the rest of the sanctuary, tore in two from top to bottom, a symbolic tearing of the barrier between God and man. In that moment, everything changed. The earth itself seemed to shudder. The centurion standing guard, a hardened Roman soldier, whispered in awe, "Truly, this was the Son of God." The passion, the suffering and sacrifice of Jesus had reached its climax, but it was not the end. For in the stillness of death, a new hope dawned. The promise of resurrection flickered like a candle in the darkness. A shroud of grief settled upon the disciples. The weight of loss pressed heavy on their hearts. The events of the past few days, a blur of confusion and despair, culminated in this, the cold, hard reality of Jesus' lifeless body laid in a borrowed tomb. The one they had followed, the one who had promised them a kingdom, lay silent, defeated. The tomb, sealed with a heavy stone, stood as a stark reminder of their shattered hopes, their dreams of a new world order. A world transformed by Jesus' message of love and forgiveness seemed to die with him. The silence of the tomb echoed their own inner silence, a silence born of confusion, doubt and fear. What had become of his promises? Where was the victory in this gruesome death? Their rabbi, their friend, their Lord was gone. The world continued to spin, indifferent to their grief, a cruel reminder that life in all its harshness went on. The women, their hearts heavy with sorrow, prepared spices to anoint his body, a final act of love and devotion. But even as they walked towards the tomb in the pre-dawn darkness, a glimmer of hope, faint yet persistent, flickered within them. The first rays of dawn pierced the darkness as the women arrived at the tomb. To their astonishment, the stone, so heavy it had taken several men to roll it into place, lay rolled away. Fear mingled with anticipation as they peered inside. The tomb was empty. Where Jesus' body had lain, only neatly folded burial cloths remained, a silent testament to something beyond their comprehension. Confusion gave way to astonishment as an angel, radiant and awe-inspiring, appeared before them. "Do not be afraid," the angel proclaimed, his voice resonating with otherworldly authority. "For I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has risen, as he said." The angel's words struck them like a thunderbolt, shattering their despair and igniting a spark of hope that quickly grew into a raging fire. The impossible had happened. The one they had seen die, the one they had mourned, was alive. The silence of the tomb had given way to the triumphant chorus of resurrection. The news of Jesus' resurrection spread like wildfire among his followers. At first, they struggled to comprehend the magnitude of the event. Doubt and disbelief lingered, but as Jesus appeared to them, offering words of comfort and peace, their doubts were replaced with an unshakable certainty. He was not a ghost, not a figment of their grief-stricken imaginations, but vibrantly alive, bearing the marks of his crucifixion, yet radiating a glory that transcended his earthly form. He ate with them, talked with them, and reassured them that death had been conquered, that his sacrifice had paved the way for a new covenant, a living hope that would forever alter the course of human history. The resurrection was not merely a historical event, it was a cosmic shift, a declaration that love, not death, had the final word. It was the ultimate victory, not just for Jesus, but for all humanity. The disciples, once lost in grief and despair, were transformed by the power of the resurrection. They emerged from their hiding places, their hearts ablaze with a newfound boldness, ready to proclaim the good news to a world desperately in need of hope. The story of the Passion of the Christ is not a museum piece, a relic of a bygone era. It is a living narrative, pulsing with relevance in our modern world. The events of that first Easter morning, the despair of the crucifixion yielding to the unbridled joy of the resurrection, continue to shape billions of lives across the globe. The cross, once a symbol of Roman brutality, has become an emblem of hope, a reminder of love's triumph over hate, of sacrifice's power to redeem even the darkest of deeds. The resurrection, a beacon of light shattering the darkness of death, offers us the assurance that we are not alone in our suffering, that even in the face of life's deepest sorrows, hope remains. The Passion of the Christ is not merely a story to be read or a historical event to be studied. It is an invitation, a call to action. It challenges us to confront the darkness within ourselves, the selfishness, the greed, the indifference that can so easily take root in our hearts. It compels us to embrace the radical love that Jesus embodied, a love that knows no bounds, a love that extends even to our enemies, a love that has the power to transform not only our own lives but the world around us. Each of us, in our own way, carries a cross. It may be the cross of illness, of loss, of broken relationships, of shattered dreams. The weight of our burdens can feel unbearable at times, threatening to crush us beneath their weight. But it is in these moments of profound darkness, these times of agonizing doubt, that the message of the Passion resonates most deeply. For in the suffering of Jesus we find solace. In his sacrifice we discover redemption. In his resurrection we are offered the promise of new life. A life no longer bound by fear or despair, but set free by the power of love that conquered death itself. The Passion of the Christ is not a one-time event, a story relegated to the pages of history. It is a living reality, a transformative power that continues to shape and mold us, to break down the walls of our selfishness and open our hearts to the boundless love that lies at the heart of the universe. Let us therefore approach this holy season not with a sense of obligation, but with hearts open to the transformative power of the Passion. Let us allow the story of Jesus' suffering, death and resurrection to penetrate our very being, to challenge us, to change us, to make us more like him. Beacons of love, hope and forgiveness in a world desperately in need of his light.